we're going to go ahead and get started this evening. We'll call to order the Centerton Planning Commission for May 19th, 2020 with a roll call.
Ty Manning.
Here.
Jerry Harris.
Here.
Tiffany Morris.
Here.
Amber Beal.
Here.
Greg Langford.
Here.
Devin Murphy. I know Devin's there. Joey Engel.
Here.
And Jeff Seifarth.
Jeff's here as well. So it was a little difficult to hear a couple of you. So, again, just kind of some rules of the road as we continue to learn this whole virtual thing. As we make motions this evening or as we second, please make sure that you state your name. There are a couple of public hearings as well. So as we do those, as you know, we will do the roll call vote. So just a heads up for Todd and for all the commissioners to be ready for that. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started with first thing on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from the 4/21 meeting.
This is Jerry. I'll make a motion. We approve the minutes of 4/21.
This is Joey. I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Is the way we'll do this, Todd. I think we did it last time. Worked out okay, if you're good with that.
Correct. Yep.
All right, no opposition, so we'll go ahead and consider those approved. And then we're going to go ahead and move under old business here. First thing there on the agenda is subdivision 2001. This is Brookside Estates adjacent street improvement agreement. This is at Brookside and Rainbow Farms Road.
That's right. So at the last meeting, you all saw the subdivision plans and approved it contingent on the offsite street improvement agreement coming back to you all for approval. It has been ironed out and is in front of you now for approval. Rick, do you want to speak on this at all?
Yes, I can. I had the Geotech go back and do additional cores. We came up with a strength number that I'm confident with. It's going to give us a good road, and we agreed on that. So we should be good. Did you hear
Are there
me?
any questions from any of the commissioners in regards to the agreement?
Nope.
If there are no questions, then I would entertain a motion for approval for the Brookside Estates adjacent street improvement agreement.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to approve the Brookside Estates adjacent street improvement agreement as presented.
This is Craig. I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there anyone that's opposed? No one's opposed, so Todd will consider that approved as well.
Okay.
Next under old business is development 1605. This is the Life Point Church, delayed completion to the north parking area. They would like to extend to the summer of 2023.
And we have Pastor Mike available to answer questions, but there is an extension, like Jeff said. The plans were originally approved with a delayed completion to a north parking area for 2 years from the certificate of occupancy. That is set for July of this year. And so we touched base with Pastor Mike to see where they were at, and he would like to extend that to the summer of 2023. Mike, would you like to speak to this?
I'll be willing to answer any questions.
So Mike, I had a question. What, from a parking space right now on, and I know we're a little outside of the last 2 months, kind of, what I would consider normal attendance, what percentage fill for parking spots are you on a regular basis?
On a regular basis, we have our early attendees, which are volunteers, come and park in the gravel And the only Sundays where we have to have other attendees like guests or other church members go to the gravel would be during big days like Easter and Mother's Day, Father's Day, and maybe one other Sunday. So it's not, it would maybe be once a quarter.
And I didn't get a chance to drive out there. The gravel's in pretty good shape where you're parking additional folks right now.
Correct.
Okay. Do any of the commissioners have any questions or concerns in regards to the extension for 3 years for the Life Point Baptist Church? Okay, if there's no further discussion, then I would entertain a motion to approve the extension from 7/26/2020 to the summer of 2023. So we'll just essentially push it out 3 years. So I guess whatever would be the equivalent for 7/26 of 2023 is what we would extend to if the commissioners approve it. So with that, I would entertain a motion.
This is Jerry. I make a motion that we approve the extension of 3 years to Life Point Church.
This is Joey. I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there anyone that's opposed to that? All right, thanks, Mike.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your service.
Night, Mike.
All right, next on the agenda this evening is track split 20-03, the Christian Life property. This is a Gamble Road right-of-way dedication with the council ordinance 2020-27 on 5/12/20. Donna, is this you?
You all saw this one at the previous meeting, and it was approved. And when we were going through and wrapping up the last of the comments, it was discovered that what was shown as existing right-of-way was not in fact existing. So it has been dedicated per an ordinance that City Council has accepted. So what we need is for ratification of approval. So it has, if we could go back to the last slide. So Gamble Road has 60 foot of total right-of-way. So 30 foot of right-of-way has been dedicated. If there are any questions, I could answer whatever you have.
Any questions or concerns from any of the commissioners? If not, then I would entertain, I guess, a motion for the ratification of approval for the for this track split 2003 Gamble Road.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to ratify our previous approval to include a right-of-way dedication on Gamble.
This is Craig. I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there anyone that's opposed to this one? Okay, so Todd, we will consider this one approved as well.
Okay.
So that's all under old business. Now we're going to move under new business. And again, under new business, there are 2 public hearings. And so just as some general guidelines, we're going to go through, we'll open up a public hearing. We'll hear some comments and from the developer. We'll also hear some comments from staff, which could include some questions from our commissioners. And then it will be open to the public. As noted on the screen, if you happen to be watching or if you joined us, just note that if you joined virtually, which I think is the YouTube channel, then actually, I'm sorry, if you joined, then you'll just need to raise your hand and then you can be recognized. If you join by phone, there is an opportunity there. It looks like you press *9 and it will raise your hand as well. And so if you're recognized, we do ask that you state your name. We do ask for your address, and then our normal procedure is to allow for around 3 minutes of conversation, which could be a question or it could be a statement. So with that, I'm going to go ahead. We're looking at the first thing on the agenda under new business is a rezone 20-10. This is Can Arc Diamond property from C3 to R2 single family. And so with that, I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
This is Ty. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Tiffany, I'll second.
And then a second to open the public hearing. Is anyone opposed? All right. Is the applicant here to give us an overview? Nicole, do you know if the applicant was going to be on this evening?
Hi, this is Kelsey Crayer with HFA representing Can Arc Diamond Realty. So a quick overview, we're just asking to rezone these currently zoned C3 lots. It's just over 2 acres, 2.05 acres from the existing C3 to R2 single family to continue the residential subdivision that's built further down Silver Maple. The C3 lots, there's no interest in the commercial use, but there is a lot of interest in the residential use. So the goal is just to continue that subdivision, Maple Estates, down to Gamble Road.
All right, thanks, Kelsey. Nicole, do you want to give us an overview from a planning perspective, from a staff perspective?
Sure. So like Kelsey mentioned, these lots were initially reserved and zoned for light commercial or neighborhood commercial lots. And this is on Gamble, directly west of Gamble Elementary. And the request in front of you is to rezone consistent with the rest of the subdivision to R2 single family. This will be for your recommendation for council approval on 6/9 at the next council meeting. Gamble Road is a collector street on our current master street plan, just as a note. And this property is directly adjacent to R2 districts, as you can see from this map. To the west, north, and east, and then to the south, there is a contiguous C3 district, and south of that, southwest of that is Bentonville West High School. And the adopted land use plan, sorry, this area is designated for medium density residential, which would be consistent with the R2 medium density residential district. Does anybody have any questions on any of that?
Not yet. Let's go ahead and open it up to the public, and this is where it takes the coordination. So Nicole, is there anyone that wishes to speak that you can see?
I do not see any hands raised at the moment. We did receive an email. I'm trying to find it, one moment, sorry. From a Walter Black Fox. And I don't know, Jeff, would you like to read his questions?
Yep, I'll read it.
Okay.
So again, this comes from Mr. Black Fox. It looks like, Todd, I apologize, there's no address on there. But his first question is, what is the finality of the rezone decision? As an example, does the rezone approval carry with it the implied requirements for new construction to adhere to the already existing Maple Estates covenants and restrictions, and to include set alignment for future structures as to the architectural style, square footage, etc. I'll come back and we'll get clarification on these. Second one is what measures will be applied to ensure that the future development of the rezoned area don't carry with it additional negative impact to the currently present drainage and water retention issues being experienced in the existing phase 1 of the Maple Estates neighborhood. And then will a new drainage design and letter be required for the rezoned area to satisfy the mitigation of risk for future developments having negative impacts to adjacent or downstream property or watersheds, and an outline of the existing area drainage issues in Maple Estates phase 1 and steps in place and timeline for the same to resolve. So Kelsey, I may open it up back to you and or Nicole if you guys have the answer to number 1. Do they plan on following the same as the other 2 phases?
Yes, this will be an extension of the existing phase 1 Maple Estate.
Okay. In regards to drainage, does anything different need to be done since it will have, I guess since it will be different versus the original commercial development?
I didn't work on phase 1 of Maple Estates. I'd have to review the drainage report. My assumption would be that, this was accounted for in the detention for phase 1 since these lots are part of that. And I would think that residential would be less of an impact than commercial, but without reviewing that drainage report, it's hard to say, but my thoughts would be that when this went in for the replat, that the drainage would be discussed and looked at again.
Okay. Nicole, do you happen to know the answer to that?
I don't, but John and Rick may have a little insight. And I also wanted to note that Mr. Black Fox is also attending, and I've allowed him to speak if he wants to follow up on these comments. But in the meantime, John and Rick, do you have thoughts on the drainage requirements for proposed residential lots compared to the analysis that was done for the commercial lots?
Also, just wanted to recognize Mr. Black Fox said his mic on his computer doesn't work, so he's called in. Is that correct, I believe?
Thanks, Todd. John or Rick, are you guys available to answer?
Commercial lots was already calculated into the initial drainage area. Changing from commercial to residential should reduce the total runoff, but it would be looked at again.
All right, thanks, Rick. Mr. Black Fox, are you on and available? Do you have any further questions, or does that answer your question?
It may be, if you have called in to use a phone to speak, you may need to press *9 to raise your hand. So we can, there you go. I think I see you. One moment. Okay.
Hello, are you able to hear me?
We can, absolutely.
Wonderful. Sorry about that, guys. I have a mic issue on my laptop for meetings, so I have to dial into most of my meetings. Apologies.
Did you get to hear the answers to the questions that you had sent in to us?
No, I was preoccupied trying to figure out if I could fix my audio issues, so I'm sorry. And I need to understand what was addressed to me. Thank you.
We're all learning through this virtual process, believe me. The intent is for these lots to just mirror the same covenants as what's already there in the subdivision. So whatever is there, then that's what they would follow is the intent from the developer.
Okay, I
And from
appreciate
a-
that. We were just questioning on what that meant and what the true finality and scope of a rezone was, and does that completely negate anything existing adjacent to it, and they're free reign to go ahead and do different styles and scope, or is it all encompassing a part of that? And also, when we see that type of documentation outlining what the future enhancements would be.
Yeah, now I will say, and Nicole, if I'm incorrect, or even Lorraine, let me know, but essentially if it's approved, it will be for R2 zoning, which is the same that's there. I don't know that we can necessarily guarantee 100% of the same, unless it's considered the same subdivision. If it's considered the same subdivision, then they would have to follow the same as the covenants. Is that correct, Nicole?
That is correct. So the zoning allows for the use, and by right, they can do R2 density residential with this request. When the subdivision plans come in, they just have to conform to our subdivision requirements. We don't necessarily control the covenants. Lorraine, do you want to add anything to that?
Their covenants should have to address these lots, and I would say that they should be consistent with the other lots in that phase. That is one thing that we would look for. There are improvements
thank you.
also that would have to be done with those lots.
Thank you for
Thanks.
clarifying that. It seems like the R2 definition in general is quite vague. So we were just concerned of how that aligns with our current state. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. And then from a drainage perspective, if the original drainage study that was done on the subdivision is not included or would be different, then we would be looking for them to also do some additional drainage study in regards to the R2 versus the commercial that was there as well. Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, the last question I had was just on existing issues, and this might not be the proper forum for that, but there was concern on how that is actually developed and how that might impact existing issues that are already being experienced. So might be needed for a different forum.
Yeah, I would say it, unfortunately, it's not anything we can necessarily address this evening, but the appropriate folks that would be, I'll call it, interested are on the phone call, or actually on the meeting, whether that would be, the public works director or, the staff from the planning commission. So, I would definitely get with them after the meeting if there happens to be some concerns, and and feel free to reach out to them afterwards. Okay.
Understood, and definitely appreciate the time.
All right. Thank you. Is there anyone else, Nicole, that wishes to speak? I did see something pop up at the bottom. Is there any wishes to speak?
We do have oh, go ahead, Lorraine.
There's a Walter Haas. Is he?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I guess some of my questions, my neighbor, Mr. Black Fox, already addressed, but if I understand correctly, you said this meeting is not a finalized meeting. So, because some of the questions that we've asked, we're still kind of assuming that it's going to follow the same guidelines. We'll have all that ironed out before this is approved, right? As far as making sure that the style of home, the square footage, all that stuff, before this is signed off on, we can have firm answers on that. Because so far there's been a lot more, we think it's going to do that.
So the direct answer to that question is we cannot dictate the type or style of house that would come into here. As Nicole had mentioned, what we look at is it does it fit in with the rest of the subdivision? And so you guys are already R2, so they're asking for R2 zoning, which what we would look at is, doesn't meet those requirements is specifically what we would look at and what we would expect them to bring in. We cannot dictate to them, what the architecture looks like, the size of the house, or anything else. So it can certainly be asked, and that's the reason we asked, Kelsey, who is representing this evening, if she thought they would be similar, and her answer was yes. But we cannot, tell them necessarily what style or type of house.
And then you also mentioned that there was a drainage or a flood study done. Is that public accessible for the existing?
Yes.
Okay.
You would have to work through the planning staff, and then they would have the drainage study available if you wanted to see it.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't want to spend all your guys' time. I understand that there's specific things you're trying to get through. Obviously, we're having a lot of issues in the development. I mean, personally, I don't want them to drive another nail on a board until they take care of my home, but that's not for here. But I would like to find out how to get a hold of that drainage study to assist with some of the issues that we're having in our own homes currently.
Yeah, what I would recommend is, reach out to the staff down at City Hall. There's several of them that are on here this evening. That can certainly help out and get you the information that you're asking for. With the limited availability to come in City Hall, it may be best either a phone call or an email to them, and then they can send it to you or share it with you. I guess I shouldn't speak for them, but they should be able to share, what's available.
My only other question, though, with the new rezoning, if that happens, this was something that was brought up earlier this year with a crosswalk and things like that. Are you guys going to go ahead and have C3 develop the sidewalk to connect with the rest of Maple Estates? I know we talked about the crosswalk is going to actually be down the road just a little bit once that gets put in. But C3 originally, when it was commercial property, had told us that would be up to once the commercial property was developed. Residential should develop quicker than the commercial property, but will they be expected to join those sidewalks together through the entire Maple Street there?
I think I can
Are you
answer that.
asking if they will connect the entire? Oh, Rick, go ahead. I guess if you were going to speak there.
I'm sorry. I
No,
can
you're
answer
good.
that one for you. He's already spoke with me about the adjacent street improvements. He will be doing the improvements with sidewalk along Gamble Street. And the sidewalks that are along the street internally will be developed as the lots developed, the same way as inside your subdivision.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate your guys' time. Like I said, some of this stuff is not for you guys. Unfortunately, I wish you guys were able to help more, but I just appreciate the information.
And Walter, can you share your address just so we have it for the record?
I'm at 1071 Silver Maple.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
I second Walter's request on information. This is Walter Blackfox, and I had two questions. Will we be able to access recordings of this session, number one, and then number two, is there anything on our part that we need to do to begin that engagement with the staff on this call, or will they be able to reach out to us? How does that process look?
Lorraine, do you want to address that? I mean, my guidance would be that they reach out to you guys via email or a phone call. Would you have anything any different?
Via email is probably the best way. And now, as far as if you're looking for the drainage information for when it was first platted, is that what you're requesting?
Yeah, so what I would say, the best thing to do, just so there is a record, would be to email them, and their email address is on the Centerton website with the specific request of what you're asking, and then, there'll be a record of it, and then they'll be able to respond, back to you.
I do want.
Thank you. Sorry.
Go ahead, Lorraine.
I do want just to clarify, these are being rezoned, but when they come in to replat them as a subdivision, the city typically requires a letter from the engineer that states that the drainage analysis still performs as it should. So I know that there are issues in Maple Estates right now. We're working, Ashmore subdivision to the north is getting close to being finished. That water is to be routed, but that detention pond will then be taken care of, or a lot of that water should be taken care of, all of it, but that you're having issues with on that ditch. But until then, that ditch will have to remain until that detention pond is functioning. So I just want to let you know on that.
Thank you very much for that guidance and information. And I guess the first question was going to be, other than, or at least will a transcript of this meeting that we're having right now be available, or will this meeting, is this meeting being recorded, we'll be able to access that at a later date as well?
Yes, all of our meetings are recorded, and the minutes are taken as well. And so they would be available to you. I believe it would be probably a Freedom of Information Act, unless that's not correct, Lorraine or maybe Todd.
The minutes
They
are posted on our,
available.
the meeting minutes are posted on our website, and can be found. You can email us and we can send them to you, or you can find them. We have a meeting archive page under Planning Commission.
And those minutes,
Wonderful.
they'll be posted after they're approved at the next Planning Commission meeting.
Wonderful.
Correct.
Thank you guys very much for allowing us time to speak, and also for, getting outside of the scope of this specific thing and trying to think of any outside ancillary activities that might impact this as well on your decision. So we really appreciate that broader look and view. Thank you.
Walter, can I get your address real quick?
Yes, sir. It's 941 Red Maple Street. Separate words, Red and Maple.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys. Nicole, is there anyone else?
There's a number, I'm not sure. It's a 941, ends in 505. Oh,
This is Sarah Zimmerman. I'm at 1041 Silver Maple. I just had a quick question on that drainage as well. I heard Lorraine pop on and talk about the retention pond helping with like a ditch. I think right now, is there anything that's going to help with the backyard? Because that's the issue. And I think that's why people are looking at the drainage report and wondering if that rezoning in the front is going to cause any of our backyards to have further issues coming down the street.
Can I get you to spell your name for me? I didn't quite understand it.
Sarah Zimmerman at 1041 Silver Maple.
Thank you.
Sure.
So Sarah, I guess I'll answer this the best I can, and Nicole or Lorraine, if you have different, or even Rick, if you have a different, view, please feel free to share. But what, we don't always understand what happens in the rear yards, I guess. So, our biggest thing that we look at in the drainage study would be, how the water is removed and handled, whether it's within or it's outside, are the two biggest things that we would look at whenever we look at the drainage study.
Okay. Yeah, I was just commenting on whether she was talking about the retention pond being a help in the future. So I was just wondering if there were any plans for that to help with the backyard issues with some type of drainage factor, or if that was solely for the front ditch that she was referring to, which I assume was the correct answer.
May I enter something?
Absolutely, Rick, go ahead.
Yes, please.
Everyone should see a major improvement with the development of Ashmore. Everything that has been coming from Highway 72 has been coming to your property. And it has been unfortunately, it's been going through a lot of your backyards, but now that's being piped underground through Ashmore and going into the detention pond at the west end of your subdivision now and continuing on north. So you should see a major improvement. The development of the front lots should be very little impact because most of that is going to drain to the roadway and hit your systems. It shouldn't be affecting your backyards at all. But we'll look at that all very good in the future and make sure that it doesn't give you any more problems.
Okay, appreciate that, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a good point. And you said it's Ashmore, is that correct? And is that the one that's directly north of Maple Estate subdivision?
That's correct. The subdivision directly
Okay.
north of Maple Estates is Ashmore Landing.
Okay. And from what we understand, we have residents there who had to have their actual privacy fences built in 10 to 15 feet inside their property line because of the flooding issues. Does that resolve that issue, and then they would actually have full access to their property lines after this stuff in Ashmore? Is that the intent or understanding?
Some of those have already contacted me, and also the developers of C3. I instructed them to get with their initial design engineer and make sure that at this time that could all be cleaned up and moved out. That was the contract that they have with some of those property owners. Once this is done, once that subdivision was done, they were supposed to fill the ditch and restore their backyards. A lot of this was done after the subdivision was approved and after homes were being built. So it was really a contract between the homeowner and the developer itself.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just had one more question too. This is Walter Hayes. Again, I know you got two Walters on here, so I apologize for the confusion. The only other question I had, and this might not be the right forum, but the Ashmore development, who is the builder for that?
I don't have the answer to that. I don't know if anybody from staff does, but I don't have the answer to that.
Okay.
S&K was your contractor on that subdivision.
Okay. And I do, again, I want to tell you guys, I really appreciate you. I apologize that I feel like you guys are getting the brunt. Some of us residents here, we just haven't been able to have our voice heard. So fortunately, you guys have allowed us, even though you can't do as much as I'm sure a lot of us wish you could, but I do appreciate your guys' time. But there are several just small issues and large issues that we're just trying to work through. And honestly, just any further development without having the current issues resolved is a frustration from all the homeowners that are here. And so I think that's why several have either called in or joined a call like this. But I do appreciate your guys' time. I don't want to waste any more of it, but thank you
Please
guys.
understand, I've seen your issues from the beginning. I've seen the flooding issues, but I think you're going to see a major improvement with the development of Ashmore. It should be all piped underwater and past your homes now.
I second Walter's sentiment and thank everybody for your assistance, and apologies to the individuals that are next in the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you guys for participating. Nicole or Lorraine, is there anyone else?
I think that's all.
All right. Well, with that, then I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
This is Tiffany. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
This is Amber. I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right. We'll consider the public hearing closed at this point, and we'll move on. We're going to consider the questions that we should go through in regards to considering the request to rezone from C3 to R2. The first one, of course, is the rezone consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan, including the adopted land use plan. If not, why? Does anybody disagree that this would not be consistent? Todd, we will consider this consistent then. Is the proposed rezoning compatible with the surrounding area and zones? Is there anyone that would consider this not compatible with the surrounding area and zones? So Todd, I think we're okay on that one as well. Would all the permitted uses in this new zone be compatible in this location and surrounding areas? And I'm going to say because it's R2, which is very similar to what it's next to, this would be okay as well. Does anybody disagree? Okay, so we're okay on that one as well, Tom. Would the rezoning provide a benefit to one landowner but not be considered for other similar properties in this area? And I think the answer is no to that one as well. Does anybody disagree with that? So we're okay on that one as well, Todd. And then if the public is opposed, why? Are the objections based upon factual information relating directly to this request or opinion based? Does any factual information presented apply to this rezoning situation? And I think the biggest one that is fact-based is would they be homes? But all we can look at in this case would be the fact that it is going to be zoning, which is very similar. In regards to the, to the water, unfortunately, we didn't see anything here this evening. I understand there may be an issue up there. Rick spoke a little bit about it. We have a subdivision to the north. So, something for us to consider in regards to that. Does anybody have any comments or questions or concerns in regards to this one? So Todd, I think we're okay on that one as well. All right, are there any other questions, concerns from any of the commissioners? And anything additional from staff? Just one note that Frank had made in regards to the comments, that if it's approved, that they would just need to verify the utilities from a water service perspective. So just so that we're aware of that as well. And if there's no other questions or comments from any of the commissioners, then I want to entertain a motion in regards to the rezone 2010 Can Arc Diamond Realty property from C3 to R2 single family.
Greg, I will make a motion to approve rezone 20-10 Can Arc Diamond Realty property C3 to R2 single family.
A second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Todd, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Ty Manning,
Yes.
Jerry Harris,
Yes.
Tiffany Morris,
Yes.
Amber Beal,
Yes.
Greg Langford, Greg, are you out there?
Shake your
Greg
head
made
yes
the
or no,
motion.
Craig.
I think he's frozen.
Craig, you
He
there?
made the motion. I'm assuming he's a yes.
Back. Yeah, it got cut me off for a second. I'm good.
Okay. Devin Murphy? Have we gotten Devin at all tonight?
He's been hit and miss. I know he got kicked off a time or two, and he's having, and then Zoom's telling him it's busy. So
There, Debbie,
Yes.
can you talk? Was that a yes?
I heard a yes.
Okay. And Jeff Seifert?
yes. All right. Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you, Nicole. All right. Next on the agenda this evening is our second public hearing, and this is conditional use 20-02 Smith Communications Cell Tower. This is on Arlen Road. It is A1, and it looks like it's 1.23 acres. So with that, I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
This is Joey. I'll entertain a motion, or I will make a motion to open the public hearing. Sorry, Joe.
This is Tiffany. I'll second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Thanks. I appreciate you entertaining that, Joey.
No problem, man.
All right. Is the developer here to give us an overview?
Yes, he is out there. It should be Ty. Not.
Ty Not.
Ty, if you're available, can you raise your hand or press *9, or
Hello.
can you speak up just a little bit? We can barely hear you.
You hear me now?
Yeah, that's better. Thanks, Ty.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys taking a look at this. This is, it's been approved a couple of times already, and really the long and the short is that this location, we're building this tower for Verizon, and it was approved by them. They pushed it out due to some budgeting constraints, et cetera. It's been pushed out a couple of times, but now this project is fully on go and look to start construction this year on this. So that's what we're doing back here. Our CUP expired, so we're just trying to get reapproval on that.
All right. Thank you. Diane, do you want to give us a staff overview?
Sure, let me get myself unmuted here. Okay, there we go. Sorry, my mouse is moving backwards to what I'm used to. This piece of property is located there off of Arlen Road, near the Lightning soccer fields and close to the, I believe the piece of property there off of Highway 72 is the Kindred North, Kindred West. Can't recall the correct name of that. That property right there to the east of it is that property. As Todd mentioned, they have had a conditional use previously for this piece of property, the exact same design and the exact same location. They do have a property lease. It is a 75 by 75 foot fenced area. So that's about, 0.19 acres. And this property, it is zoned, I believe it's agriculture is what I put on there, yes. It is zoned agriculture. And biggest issue that we've seen with this, and we know, that their lease is for a certain 75 by 75 foot square. But with Arlen Road, it is on the master street plan, and it's going to be a collector with 60 feet of right of way. So that would be 30 feet on either side of the section line. And on this site plan here, you can see that 30 feet, if you go from the section line, because right now the road is essentially all the way on the property. It's all the way to the west of the section line. But if it is widened to 30 feet, there would only be about 5 feet between the fence for the tower and the right of way. And that would be about 42 feet from the center line of the road. And now the city of Centerton, we don't have any specific regulations for cell towers. But there is, they are allowed conditionally in every one of our zoning areas. It just requires a conditional use. But the county, Benton County, does have regulations for cell towers. They prefer that the setbacks be 50 feet from the edge of a road plus the height of the tower. That's just their requirement. We're not saying that's exactly what we're looking for. We would like it a little further away from the road, but that is, what the county requires. No occupiable residences within a distance of the height of the tower plus 50 feet. I believe you can see on this drawing here, I believe it's like 3,162 feet between where the pole is going to be and the nearest house. Again, I'm trying to read small print, and that's why I'm squinting at my camera over here. The fence must be posted with signs warning against trespass. It should be surrounded by the fence, 6 feet in height, topped with either barbed wire or razor wire. So that way people can't climb in there. And any ladder or other apparatus that could help, obviously the people that work there to climb the tower needs to be at least 12 feet off of the ground. So again, nobody could randomly climb the tower. It is an unmanned site. The only people that are going to go there is if they're going to be doing some specific work to the tower or something to that effect. And it is a 195-foot monopole tower. Sorry, I did not state that at the beginning. And this is the same, like I said, tower that they've had a conditional use for in the past. And of course it would be a permanent tower. So I do have, I think, Nicole, if you scroll down to another slide, there's for the conditional uses, where you could see that it is conditional in every one of our zoning districts. Next slide. And here are some considerations for you guys today. As far as with issuing this conditional use permit, a lot of these are the same ones that were in the conditional use permit previously. Good tower aesthetics, low impact to surrounding owners, site security, and like I said, that is one of them that Benton County requires also. Minimize noise and light pollution that might emanate from a final completed installation. And this one, they have not provided any specific site plan other than, the basic that was shown here. So we would ask that, one of the conditions also be, detailed site plan when they are ready to build, landscaping, fencing, security of the area by the 6-foot fence. Cole, you want to scroll up again? Or scroll to the next slide. And noise level. I don't know what kind of noise exactly a cell tower could make, but I have heard that they do emanate some sound. So you should provide screening and landscaping to prevent any noise being heard beyond the site. And air conditioners shouldn't be any louder than, is it a normal residential subdivision? And any generator should be equipped with some sort of residential muffler. And then we do have our general conditions for approval. Of course, it would be for an indefinite period of time. Submit that large-scale development and the required fees when they are ready to construct it. Apply for, building inspection by the building department. And you would be required to conform with setback requirements by the Planning Commission from the planned right-of-way of the 60 feet, 30 feet half. So that might be an issue in the future with how close that's going to end up being to the right-of-way. And any signage that they would need would require sign permits and any other permits from city, state, and federal agencies. But question away. I rattled off a whole lot.
So Ty, I don't know if this is the first time that you're seeing some of these piece of information in regards to some of the trees and the whatnot. Any thoughts on a landscape plan and stuff? Do you know if that's been discussed?
Yeah, I do know that it has been discussed, and that's no problem at all. Putting some kind of shrubbery / tree buffering in there is somewhat typical. So yeah, that's not a problem at all. And I was just going to talk a little bit about the noise level. And as far as any kind of noise or anything, to your point, the air conditioner on the building or whatever is no more than what you would see at a residential. So that won't be any problem at all either.
All right, so now we'll move into the public portion. Nicole, is there anyone that wishes to speak or has any questions?
We have a Ronnie Robinson.
Hey, Ronnie, did you have a question or a comment?
Yes. Am I coming through clearly?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Hey, thank you for putting this on the table tonight. As a resident in Centerton, and specifically the Oak Tree subdivision. We have experienced major issues for quite some time with cellular service in the neighborhood. It's only gotten worse since COVID-19. So we've many in the neighborhood have voiced concerns to various parties, various people, and I'm sure there are others on the line as well. I want to make it noted and clear that this is certainly affecting the residents in our neighborhood and many others, and will ultimately affect this portion of Centerton if we can't get this fixed and can't get it fixed quickly. Many of us were disappointed in Verizon and anyone else who made the decision to delay this from 5 years ago. I think that was a bit of a surprise to us, and further created some concern about this that has been going on for this many years. So we are eager to get it resolved, and so I just want to make that statement clear from a Centerton resident in the Oak Tree subdivision. Thank you.
I'll sum that up, Ronnie, that you're in favor of it. Is that correct?
You would be accurate. Yes, very much in favor.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure as we, go through our discussion. So thank you for the comments and the support. Nicole, is there anyone else that wishes to speak or have any questions?
Yeah, to be self-shot.
I'm not seeing any other hands.
Is there anyone that's not in favor of better cell service?
All right, I'm going to do a third and final call. If there's no one there, then we will go ahead and entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
This is Tiffany. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Well,
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Is anyone opposed? All right, public hearing is closed. Are there any questions, concerns, or thoughts from any of the commissioners?
I just want to say I appreciate you guys taking a look at this, and I know the COVID and everything has made this type of thing very difficult. I've been on one of these pretty much every night for the last 2-3 weeks, so it's I know it's trying for the city. So I just want to tell you guys did a nice job, and I appreciate you helping us out with all this. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Todd. If there's no other questions or concerns from the commissioners, then I will entertain a motion for the conditional use 2002, the Smith Communication Cell Tower on Arlen Road. Again, it's an A1 and it's 1.23 acres.
I'll make a motion to approve conditional use 20-02.
This is Tiffany. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Todd, if we'll do a roll call, please.
Ty Manning,
Yes.
Jerry Harris,
Yes.
Tiffany Morris,
Yes.
Amber Beal,
Yes.
Craig Langford,
Yes.
Devin Murphy, Joey Engel,
Yes.
Jeff Seifert,
Yes.
and I'll wait on Devin if he's going to try to climb in there again. Yes, I got it.
All right. Thank you, guys. And thank you, Ty. Next on the agenda is the Centerton City Hall. This is 1903. This is on Municipal Drive. As a reminder, it is Zone C3 and it's 6.17 acres. Is Patrick on to present this, or who's going to present it to us this evening from a developer perspective?
Cool. Patrick, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Patrick, do you just want to give us an overview real quick?
Yes, sir. We're here tonight proposing a 9,828 square foot admin building and a 4,631 square foot courthouse addition where the city fire department and police department are located. It'll include 146 additional or not additional, it'll be a combination of the existing police station and additional parking spaces, but 146 spaces. There's an existing detention pond on the south side of the site that we're modifying to accommodate the additional impervious area. So we just want to bring it before you guys and see if you had any questions.
I'm sure we will have some questions if you'll hang on for us.
I believe there's
Nicole, is this?
the architect on here as well, if there's any questions on the building or whatnot. So should be well equipped.
Nicole, are you going to give us an overview from staff?
I can do that. So again, let me scroll back up to the location. This is being proposed south of the fire station #1 off of Centerton Boulevard. There's a access easement for Municipal Drive that goes back to the police station, and the police station is being included in these plans as an existing structure, but the parking area and everything is included in the plans, and the detention, like Patrick said. You all approved a conditional use permit in October of 2019 for the City Hall and Court Assembly uses, which is a requirement of the C3 zoning district for those uses. There is a request in front of you included with the approval of these plans to amend a condition in that permit regarding the secondary emergency access point. And Patrick can speak to that in a moment if you all have questions, but that is part of the approval. There are also a number of waiver requests from the stormwater manual requirements. And those are detailed in your report. But there is a requirement for from the 4-to-1 slope. They're proposing 3-to-1. They're proposing a concrete trickle channel that needs your approval. They're not meeting the 1 foot of freeboard. And there is an 8-foot flat area and 10-foot maintainable area requirement around the pond that's not being met. And the 100-year elevation requirement is 20 feet away from the structure. That's the requirement, and they're meeting that with the principal building of the police station, but there is a covered patio that is 10 feet away from that 100-year elevation. So included in the plans are the large-scale development plans, the landscape plans, and the site lighting plan will have to come back to you all for approval. I believe I may have received that late this afternoon, but I was not able to get it in the packets, so we'll have to bring that back after staff has had a second to look at it. And you can see in your packets let me skip ahead. So there is a floodplain on the property, primarily along the north property line near the fire station, and then some along the southeast corner of the site. And for your reference, these plans, north is to the right of the sheet. So Centerton Boulevard is along the right side of the sheet. But the construction activity is outside of the floodplain. There's no additional right-of-way required at this time, and no adjacent street improvements. There's a planned highway expansion in the relatively near future. And the plan is that they're showing sidewalk for pedestrian access all the way up to the fire station. And once those improvements are made and sidewalk is installed along Centerton Boulevard, that connection can be made. But right now it doesn't exist, and there's some pretty heavy utility and grading in the northeast corner of the site that will need some work, and that will be done with the improvements. They are proposing a few new parking areas, including north of the admin building. The L-shaped building is the proposed administration building, and then the more rectangular is the proposed assembly area or court area, kind of to be determined. And the parking requirements are being met with what is being proposed, including what's required for the police department. We are still working out some of the handicap locations. There's one proposed on the north side in the north parking area, since that's the closest access to the main entry, which is the northeast corner of the building. So there's an easy access to the admin building, and then these two stalls down here would be the closest for the court building and the courtyard area in general. We were hoping for a handicap space on the south side of the court building so that there could be an even closer access, but the grades in this area don't seem to be accommodating of that. So that will probably get moved back over to the police station. There's currently 2 handicap stalls, but they do have the correct number. We're just still sorting that out. There's a number of existing easements on this property that are being shown, and there's a survey document included to clarify those. As I mentioned, Municipal Drive isn't technically a public street. It's just 2 ingress-egress easements, and it's addressed from Municipal Drive. And then with the conditional use permit approval, the Planning Commission requested that staff compare what they're proposing to our draft landscape ordinance, which I have done and outlined in the packet. I can go over that in detail if you'd like, but essentially they are meeting or meet the intent of the code, we feel. And it seems to be a beautiful plan with lots of greenery. As I mentioned, we haven't received the site lighting plan, or if we have, it came in late this afternoon, so it'll need to come back to you for approval. They are including a dumpster enclosure on the north, I guess to the southwest corner of the court building, and that enclosure has a Patrick, you might be able to help me, some kind of just covered area for recycle cans as well. There is no signage being proposed. There's a new electric sign out front of the fire department for the municipal complex. So that would include, this new building and the police department. Again, there are waiver requests for the stormwater analysis for your consideration. Staff has voiced support of these waivers. They seem like there's a few of them, which there are, but these are waivers that we're looking at adjusting in our stormwater manual in the coming months, because they tend to be requested on development. So we're looking at them closely to see if we should continue to require that or not. The last waiver request, let me get back to my waivers, for being 20 feet away from the 100-year. When we first looked at this, we missed the patio portion, so that has not received staff comment because it was just realized, but it is for your consideration, and we do have Rick on the line who can speak to that, and Lorraine can weigh in on her thoughts, but that's it's supposed to be 20 feet away, and it's meeting that with the principal structure, but there's a patio that it is not meeting. Is there any questions? Sorry, that was a lot of information.
Are there any, first of all, I appreciate Patrick and Nicole. I think you guys answered a lot of our questions in a lot of detail, you know, especially from when we approved it. So, you know, I appreciate it. And, you know, there is a reference in the packet from the police chief and from the fire chief, I believe, in regards to the extra, you know, we kind of talked a lot about this, you know, additional access, if you will. And I think there's, you know, a note not only from, I do think the mayor, but then also from the, you know, the fire chief and the police chief in regards to, you know, they're okay with, you know, with the way that it is. I think the fact they, you know, from the fire trucks going from the west, I think, you know, eases my mind a little bit, but you know, I appreciate the fact that you guys, you know, provided some additional information there as well, along with, you know, doing the due diligence on the, you know, in regards to the proposed, you know, landscape as well. So, but I appreciate it. So with that, though, I would open up to any questions, current concerns, or comments that any of the commissioners might have.
Jeff, this is Craig. Question regarding the parking aspect. I noticed in the top left corner of the map, the police only parking. Is that counted in the total parking spots, and how does that affect the overall? Like, I just want to make sure we have enough parking for the businesses or the buildings that we have. So that's all my question is related to that police only parking.
Nicole or Patrick, do you know the answer to that?
Yes, and you can see it's kind of pulled out in the parking table as well. But we calculated the number of parking required just for this building, and that kind of feeds into the required parking for that building. But overall, they have provided 12, you know, they've provided over the requirement, so it all works out. But we have ensured that the proposed buildings, the number of parking required for those proposed buildings is being met by the non-gated area.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks, Nicole. Any other questions or concerns from any of the commissioners?
I share my same concerns as back in October as far as access and this, you know, if this was a development brought to us by anybody else, we wouldn't approve it. And I don't think it's, you know, approving or allowing to waive the second access. I think that's a bad idea. I mean, the nice thing with it is, yeah, you've got all the buildings together. That's you know, definitely a big win. But from a development perspective, I don't think it's a good design still.
Okay, thanks, Ty. I don't know, Rick, or, you know, I guess I would kind of rely a little bit on Rick to maybe talk about that. You know, it makes it a little bit more difficult in the fact that there's already two existing structures. So, you know, do we approach it different if we're looking at just, you know, if it came in from scratch versus, you know, kind of putting something in the middle of a building, you know, or two buildings, I guess. So I think they, you know, tried to address it. You know, I think I truly believe the police chief and the fire chief did look at it from, you know, from their perspective. And, you know, we have to rely a little bit on their expertise in regards to this, in my opinion. And I understand, you know, we had some strong opinions on it whenever we we went to it. So I don't know if, that would be, Rick from a comment perspective or, anyone else that would have any comment on that.
One thing I would like to say, we made this move 9 years ago. This was the plan to build the whole city complex there at that time, and provisions were made to build this building. We've got the stub outs for sewer, water, and everything in the place. This was made 9 years ago. In a sense, we do have 2 access points at the front, but they're not properly spaced. But everyone seems to feel that this will work out, and so that's all I can really add to it.
All right, thanks, Rick. Any of the commissioners have any other thoughts or comments or concerns?
Jeff, this is Joey. Patrick, are you still on here?
Yes, sir.
Hey man, looking at it looks like we're gonna do a trickle channel. And something that I've used before that actually works out pretty well is if you kind of recess that trickle channel down like 3 or 4 inches into the ground, so it's not at level. It seems to work better. You might just look at something like that. It might be better for our guys out there mowing it.
Sure. Yeah, we can look at that.
Then one thing I've never seen is a waiver request on our freeboard requirement, which I agree with Anna. I think it's conservative on top of conservative. But just want to bring that up.
I was looking through the drainage manual. I wasn't sure I was going to talk about this or not. I don't know if there's a 1 foot free.
I don't think there is. I don't think there is.
It requires 105% capacity, and we do have that.
Yeah. I don't think there's a standard 1 foot freeboard like you see in all the other cities. But again, like Anna said, I don't know. It's very conservative.
Yes, sir.
Matt
I'm gonna
Johnson wants to
switch just a second here. I do believe that Matt is on and available to talk. Is that correct, Matt?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Absolutely. Did you want to share something with us?
I was just going to let you all know by Appendix D of the fire code, it's Appendix D 104.2. And in commercial areas, and we don't have to have a secondary access until we get to 62,000 square foot. And that's where the fire code allows us to keep the one access. If we went over the 62,000, then the fire code would even make us have the secondary access. I just wanted you all to have that information.
I appreciate it. And again, I think our biggest concern, as we talked about it, I think we deal with traffic all the time in various aspects. And I think where we were coming from, and I don't remember if you were at the meeting in October, so I apologize for that. But, if we were to fill this parking lot up, for whatever the event might be, and all those people decided to leave at one time, our biggest concern was the ability for not only you guys, the fire department, but also for the police to be able to get out, and in and out. That was his concerns. If they are backed up, then would it allow for you guys, so we look at traffic a little bit different than the square footage, if that makes sense. So that's the reason that we brought it up, and so that was the reason that we had requested it back in October.
Yes, sir. I just wanted you to have that information. So thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Jeff, also Cody Harper would like to speak.
Hey, Cody.
Yes, thank you. Nope. Am I on now?
Yep, you're on.
Yes.
My biggest thing looking at the secondary drive is my response is completely different than the fire department's response. If I have all of my officers at the PD, we're there for a meeting or something along those lines. I'm always going to have officers out in the city for an emergency response. So that's what I looked at when I looked at the secondary drive. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. So that's my 2 cents on it. I'm not going to have everybody on shift at the PD at one time. It'd be a very rare occasion when that does happen.
Okay, thank you for sharing.
Yes, thank you.
I'll go back to any commissioners that would have any additions, comments, or concerns. Okay.
We do also have the architects here, and they've helped coordinate the landscape plan, which has multiple tiers to it. There's kind of an overall plan, and then it defines all the trees. There's kind of an orchard area to the north of the admin building with apple trees, kind of going back to Centerton's heritage with apples. And then there's a shrubbery plan and a ground cover plan. There's kind of this meadow area, again, kind of intermixed with the orchard, and then some nice design work being proposed there. And then they've provided renderings of the concept for the building. And this is in your packets, but I thought I'd show them as well for everybody's information. This is the administration building. There's kind of different wings to it, and then the court building or assembly area, potentially where council and planning commission will meet in the future if COVID ever lets us.
All right, thanks for sharing. From what I understand, Wayne would like to speak. Is that correct, Wayne?
Sir, everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you. Yes, this is Wayne Lowe, council member Ward 3, as well as living on Shane Drive at 211 Shane Drive. I mentioned in the last, when the conditional use first came up, I've lived here for 20, going on 21 years now. Yeah, traffic is getting worse. I've never seen this one except when school buses are there, back up. Now, that's not to say if something couldn't back it up, but even with the processional for the captain, and I'm probably going to say his name wrong, Cesar, the processional, traffic will move well out of the firehouse. Valid points and concerns, I guess, on the secondary access. I don't see it being as much of an issue here as what I could in some other ones, like with when Popeyes first opened on Centerton Boulevard and around those apartment complexes. But it's a valid concern, and I appreciate everybody keeping that in mind. So that was my 2 cents on it. And as far as I said last time, trying to keep the city hall where it is, that it won't work there. We'd lose the park. We'd lose a lot of stuff down there. There's a lot of utilities that's in the ground, and it would be nearly impossible to try to keep it there. So keep that in mind for the city for the future. And that's, I appreciate your time. That's all I have to say.
Hey, Jeff, can I make a comment?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Bill Edwards, Mayor Centerton. The only other thing I wanted to add is a couple things. With COVID-19, our city's been very fortunate. We've learned a lot of things, and we've been able to do a lot of things electronically. So our traffic at City Hall has been very low. But also, I know there was some concerns with attendance. We have court once a month now, and it lasts for about 3 hours, and that's about the only big event we see in the very near future. So anyway, I just wanted to throw it in. I think I threw it in last time too, but that's all I had.
All right. Thanks, Bill. Anything else from any of the commissioners? So I think that the best thing for us to do is to handle the waivers. I'm thinking in two different ways. One would be, or actually in two different motions. One would be in regards to the secondary emergency access. And then the second one I think we could do would be in regards to the, I'm going to call it drainage area, unless someone disagrees with me on that. Then I think that's the way that we should handle the two waivers. And then from there, we'll consider the overall plan. So with that, I would entertain a motion in regards to amending the request for the condition requiring the secondary emergency access point based on the support from the fire chief and from the police chief.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion recommending approval of that waiver for the secondary access.
This is Jerry. I second.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Todd, because we're amending this, I would like to do a roll call vote, please.
Sure. Ty Manning,
No.
Jerry Harris,
Yes.
Tiffany Morris,
Yes.
Amber Beal,
Yes.
Craig Langford,
Yes.
Devin Murphy,
Yes.
all right, Joey Engel,
Yes.
and Jeff Seifert.
Yes. Thank you, guys. The second one is for the waiver, and if you guys are okay, I would like to put it all under kind of stormwater, if you will. That's what everything is in regards to. So with that, I would entertain a motion for the second waiver request in regards to the storm manual requirements.
This is Craig. I will make a motion to approve the waiver for the stormwater request.
Second. This is Joey.
I have a motion and a second. Todd, if you'll do a roll call for me on this one as well, please.
Ty Manning,
Yes.
Jerry Harris,
Yes.
Tiffany Morris,
Yes.
Amber Beal,
Yes.
Craig Langford,
Yes.
Devin Murphy,
Yes.
Joey Engel,
Yes.
and Jeff Seifert.
Yes. All right, thank you, guys. And then just a note that the site lighting plan will come back to us for review in the future. If there's nothing else from any of the planning commissioners or staff, I would entertain a motion to approve the Centerton City Hall, again at Municipal Drive. A reminder, it's C3 and it is on 6.17 acres.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to approve the item that we're talking about right now, PUB 1903, Centerton City Hall.
This is Jerry. I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. And then I'm going to ask if anyone is opposed.
Yeah, I'm opposed. It's Ty.
Okay, so noted that Ty is opposed. Any other commissioners opposed? All right, thanks everyone. We'll consider this approved.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, next on the agenda this evening is also, it's PUB 20-01. This is the Centerton Utilities Administration Building. It is on Main Street. It's C1 and it's 4.15 acres. Is Brandon on to give us an overview?
He is. Hold on just a moment.
This is Brandon. I'm here.
Hey, Brandon, can you just give us a brief overview, please?
Sure. This is Centerton Utilities proposed new administration offices on Main Street. It's going to have a drive, one-way drives in and out. And parking for people to come in and pay their bills and set up service, things like that. As well as a meeting space for commission meetings or public meetings relating to utility business. So happy to answer any specific questions to the site or this project.
Nicole, do you want to give us just a brief overview? Did we lose Nicole?
Sorry, I started talking and forgot I was muted. Okay, so again, this property is on North Main Street. It's north of the Centerton Cemetery, kind of northwest of City Hall. It is currently on a few different lots in the original Centerton subdivision and Womack's addition, which we'll get into a little bit more later. You all recommended approval to rezone this property to C1 back in April. There will be an RDOT permit required for their work within the right-of-way, since Main Street is RDOT jurisdiction. And then because it's on multiple lots and the building is in the middle of those lots, a replat of the property with right-of-way dedication is required just prior to C of O towards the end of the process. They can do it anytime, but that's when they'll need to do it by. And there is one waiver request from the stormwater manual for the 8-foot flat area on top of the berm around the pond, and the 10-foot maintainable area, which is outlined in your packets. This waiver request has received staff support, and we feel that the pond there can be maintained based on what's being proposed. According to the current schedule of uses, the government agencies / office use is permitted in the current zoning district of C1. This district kind of assumes that city buildings will be in the downtown area. And so it's permitted by right without a conditional use permit. And the proposed plans are conforming with the district requirements as long as the requirement to replat the property. Otherwise, they're not meeting the building setback requirements. This district does, just as a note or reminder to you all, this district does allow for 0 lot lines or setback modifications to the side and the front with your approval, so that they could ask for that. But since they're dedicating easements and right-of-way, and there's also abandoned right-of-way, we feel a lot of this can be cleaned up with a replat. So we are including that as a contingency. The right-of-way requirement based on the current master street plan is 40 feet. Main Street is an arterial, which is a minimum 80-foot requirement. They are showing the planned future right-of-way based on the draft plan, and have agreed to dedicate that 45 feet. Some of that is existing. I think it's about 20 feet of existing right-of-way, so they'll be dedicating about 25 feet additional. And you can see that's just behind the proposed sidewalk along the front of the property. The only adjacent street improvement that is being required is for that sidewalk, and they'll be doing their driveway, the extension on the north side and the installation on the south side, and then the right-of-way dedication. And again, a note that an RDOT permit will be required for that work. They are meeting the parking requirements. There's partially through the paved parking proposed, but they also have this overflow area that's proposed to be gravel that accommodates an additional, I don't have it in my notes, but additional parking. There's 11 paved and 44 total, although I think that's changed. They've added these 7 stalls recently, and I don't think that's reflecting in the count at the moment. And then they're required to have the 2 ADA accessible stalls as well. There was so the circulation of the site, the south entrance is entrance only, and the north entrance ingress egress is exit only. So there's circulation arrows throughout the site, and they have a signage plan to clarify. They also have a drive-up window that they're proposing that you have to enter from the south. And then they're proposing a utility easement for an existing sewer line through the property. And there is floodplain on the property, you can see on the west side, but their improvements are outside of the floodplain. And there is a landscape plan for your consideration. If my, there it goes. The landscape plan. So the red shows the trees that are being proposed to be removed. The green are existing trees, and the white trees are being proposed. And then they have some landscape beds in the front of their property and along the south and west sides of the building. There's also a site lighting plan for your consideration and approval, including photometric information. I'm sorry, I should have highlighted the poles, but they're the green symbols in various locations. They're proposing a dumpster enclosure on the west side of the building in the back, and they're showing a location for a monument sign, which will require separate sign permit. City engineer has given support of the waiver request for stormwater design and has no further comments on their drainage analysis. So again, for your approval is the large scale development plans and waiver request, and we ask that the approval is contingent on the replat of the property, including right-of-way dedications prior to C of O. And I believe there's just a few very minor comments remaining from engineering. Does anybody have any questions?
Thanks, Nicole. And I see Frank's on here. I measured the grass today, Frank. It's 1 inch too tall. So.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm working on that right now. I believe Thursday the mowers are going to be in there to clean it up.
Sweet. I did just have an observation, and I don't know that it may not be a big deal. Nicole, if you can go back 1, I think, slide or 2 for me. Maybe 1 more. Yeah. Well, this we can see it here. So if I am coming into the location and I miss the turn to go through the drive-through, then I'm going to be required to go out and come back in. Is that correct? Just an observation and food for thought. I don't know that it can be corrected, but just,
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Right. And I see what you're saying now. And quite honestly, we hadn't seen that before. One thing that I did note this afternoon, and I'm sure Brandon's listening to me, the trash container in the back is really facing the wrong direction. If you got a truck coming in from one direction, you're going to have to be able to back into it. So that's got to be corrected. We'll take a look at that and see. I'm not sure if we'll be able to fix that issue of turning around or going out and coming back. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and it may just be an extra sign or a stripe or something like that, just, as much as we can. But I just, as I was looking at it, I'm like, man, if I get all the way around there, then I've got to go out. So anyway, just some food for thought. If you guys will, like I said, maybe it's just an extra sign or something.
Okay.
Any questions, concerns, or thoughts from any of the commissioners?
Hey Jeff, this is Joey. I got a few comments. While we're talking about that trash enclosure, it looks like part of your pond bank 3-to-1 slope creeps up into your trash enclosure there. Probably want to get that fixed.
Okay.
It looks like there's room behind on the west side of the parking on those 14 stalls on the far west side of the lot. I don't know why the pond couldn't creep up there and maybe give you a little more space. Anyways, and then as far as landscaping, I'm concerned with the 3 existing trees up front. You're not only grading within their drip line, but you're installing the sidewalk in their drip line, almost on their trunks. I feel like those are going to die, and then we're not going to be left with any sort of frontage trees there. I would honestly prefer that you guys just rip those out and plant new ones. That's up to you. If you don't want to do that, I would recommend that the commission get some sort of landscaping guarantee on the existing trees.
Okay.
That's
those. Oh, I thought Nicole said the red was what was existing. Did I miss that?
The green is what's existing and the red is
okay.
what's coming out.
Okay, thanks.
We're trying to save as many of those trees as we can. And I hate to take trees down as it is, but if it turns out that we're going to have to, then we won't have a choice. But if we can save them, we're going to try.
And I'm all with you, Frank. It just looks like, I'm trying to find the grading plan. It looks like you're doing quite a bit of fill in there. And if you're just piling dirt up on those trunks, I'm not sure that they're going to live. Plus with the sidewalk going through there. But that's for, I guess us to talk about. Not trying to really hammer you on the landscaping. I just don't see those making it long term.
Well, we've had some geotech work done, and we're going to be able to shave down from where the parking spaces are there and then back to the back. And there's some pretty good dirt underneath, about 2 foot of topsoil. So we're not going to have to excavate as much as we originally had thought.
Okay. Then maybe the best thing to do here is let them try it. And then if in the future they die, maybe we can just get them replaced. And being a city facility, I don't see that would be an issue anyway.
Yeah, we'll do the best we can to save them, but if they can't be, then we'll replant them.
Yeah, Rick normally has tons of trees every year that he's just looking to put in places.
Yeah. I wanted to point out, Nicole had pointed it out, ADH Highway Department, whatever that acronym is, we've already filed for the permits for that. We just don't have them yet.
Joey, we may be able to meander that sidewalk around and help that situation a little bit too in the front.
Yeah, I still think with the grading, it looks like you're filling a few feet. I don't know if they're gonna make it, but that's just something I want to bring up.
I kind of doubt it too.
Yeah.
Hey, can we look at the elevations again?
I'm sorry, my
Or can you-
Acrobat is kind of lagging a little. There we go. Okay. You're talking about the building elevations?
Correct, yeah. I'm just looking at what we're calling out for finished materials on the outside. And it's kind of hard to see. Is it a brick veneer on the front?
Yeah, it looks brick on the front side, and then the side, that 7 call out is pre-finished metal panels.
Yes, it is brick veneer on the front. And you see where the sign is, the light or the number sign 517 for North Main. That is going to be a designer type sign, backlit. almost like what you see down at Taco Bell with the rusted metal. But the front will be a brick veneer and then metal around the rest of it. It is going to be a stick-built facility. It's not a prefabbed metal building. Our hopes in that is we attract some more local contractors to be able to bid it and possibly come in with better pricing as well.
Do you have a color picked out?
The brick is almost a charcoal color with accents of tan, and the trim is all kind of in a charcoal color. In the siding, the metal is almost like I want to say a grayish. It all blends together.
Okay. And then it looks like some accents over the windows and the doorways.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, Jeff, while we're here, I reminded myself of Legacy. I remember we had them wrap the brick around the sides. I assume because it was on a major kind of or major street. I would think Main Street would be the same. I was just wanted to discuss that a little bit.
So
Frank,
So
Frank,
Joey,
are you open?
that's kind of getting to my point is this Main Street corridor through here is kind of ripe for development. And really, I could, kind of seeing it becoming the new center of Centerton, and which I think is one reason it hurts to lose City Hall on that corridor. But I think if the city is going to start developing things along that, the standard that we need to set needs to be a little bit higher than just, metal panel buildings. And I understand cost as a consideration, and I understand we have a very limited budget. But again, I think this building is going to kind of set the precedence for development on that corridor. And if we're putting up metal buildings, we're not going to get anything different in the future than metal buildings. And I think that area deserves more than that.
We can definitely look at it and see how that would look with a wraparound. Maybe not the full width of both sides, but maybe around some of it, possibly the side facing the cemetery, which that's going to be the side scene. I just want to point out that we don't get any tax dollars, and everything that we spend comes from ratepayers. So we're trying to do our due diligence and make sure that we spend our ratepayers' money wisely. And I understand, Ty, what you're saying. I've just got to walk a fine line when it comes to spending, though.
It's a balance for sure, Frank. And, I don't think our intentions are to just go crazy with it, but we want to, present some sort of plan that kind of sets the pace downtown, I think.
Sure, I understand. So I'll definitely have our architect look at that.
And speaking of architect, from what I understand, Brandon wanted to speak. Is that correct? Brandon, are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm the civil engineer, and I've done the site work, but Silas Seeger is the architect on this.
Okay. And then is Tim on? Did Tim want to speak as well?
Yes, this is Tim Mays, Engineering Services. What I wanted to point out on the front with the sidewalk is we may want to look at reconfiguring the south end, especially because I don't know that there is a way to tie a future sidewalk in at that location. So we'll have to work with certainly city staff and others to see how that can be addressed.
Yeah, I think
As you know,
Joey's,
that's a cemetery there on the south. So the right-of-way encroachment, if, we'll have to transition it back in to accommodate the right-of-way around the cemetery.
Yeah, and I think Joey's main concern wasn't necessarily the sidewalk, it was more the saving of the mature trees that were there.
Yes, it
was-
is, but I think the transition will have to occur back on the north side of that south entrance, I guess. And so we can certainly look at that.
Hey, Rick, this is Joey. Do you have any sort of information on any future right of way where we can line up sidewalks or do anything here?
No, I don't have anything at this time. He's right that it'll never tie through that cemetery. A logical move would be to do a crossing to the east side of the street or something at that point, plan on something at that point. We'll look at that and see what we can work out before he really gets into it. Good, Joey.
Okay. And while we're looking at this landscape plan, hey, Frank, when we're talking about building finishes, I think you have a lot of tree cover on the north side there. So like you said, I think the cemetery view from the south is going to be your main hit. So if you can kind of dress up that southern side of the building, I think we would, or at least I would be more in support of you putting more funds toward the southern side to dress that up rather than putting an equal amount on both sides.
Okay, yeah, I agree that northern side is buffered by quite a bit of brush and trees and structures.
I second that thought.
All right. Any other questions or concerns from any of the commissioners?
I don't think so.
All right. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this project?
Jeff, I do believe the architect is on the line and he's been cleared to talk.
Silas, are you there?
Or not?
Silas, you're unmuted. You should be able to speak.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Sorry, guys, I was muted. No, I'm just on the line. So if there's any questions on the, on the extra building finishes, I'm here. So.
Were you able to hear our comments and a few what I'll call concerns?
Yes. Yep. And I think adding, brick on the south elevation certainly is doable. And I guess I would agree. So.
Yeah, I think we just want this building, to be what I'll call aesthetically pleasing, but also understand, the fact, that funds are, we want to manage those correctly. So, we wanted to make sure that we had the right representation there, especially in that corridor. So I think it could be dressed up just a little bit. So I appreciate you listening.
Yep.
Hey, Silas, I got one question. Are there any materials that would be comparable in cost to the metal that might be a little fancier or something that we could do something with to just dress it up just a little more?
Well, I think there's some opportunity to do like more of a concealed fastener panel. Certainly this is something we're trying to find a middle ground on, not necessarily a pre-engineered metal building panel, but something that's still going to be a little nicer looking. But I think brick might be the more logical solution here. So.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to ask.
All right, thanks. If there's no other questions, comments, or concerns, we will do, similar to before, we will consider the waiver request for the stormwater first. And so with that, I would entertain a motion for the waiver request for the storm water.
Jeff, this is Joey. I'll make a motion to approve the drainage waiver request for this project.
This is Tiffany. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion in a second. Todd, I believe we did roll call last time. Will you do the same for me on this one as well, please?
Sure will. Ty Manning,
Yes.
Jerry Harris,
Yes.
Tiffany Morris,
Yes.
Amber Beal,
Yes.
Craig Langford,
Yes.
Devin Murphy, I think that's code for yes.
Or Devin.
Joey Engel,
Yes.
Jeff Sifar.
Yes. All right, and then I would entertain a motion for the development plan for the Centerton Utilities Administration Building. Again, it's on Main Street. Yep.
This is Jerry Harris. I make a motion to approve AUB 20-01 Centerton Utilities on Main Street.
Joey, I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there anyone that is opposed? All right, thanks everyone. Thanks, Frank. Good luck.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
All right, next on the agenda this evening is subdivision 1906 Featherston Village preliminary plat. Again, it's termed as micro homes. Kimmel and Womack. It's R3, 333 lots on approximately 40 acres. Is Jeff or Randy on to give us an overview?
I believe that Jeff Roth is on there and also Jeff Bates, also the engineer.
This is Jeff Bates. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Jeff.
This is Jeff, the design engineers on this project, and we've been working with city staff for the last 5 months on this unique development, and we're really excited to move to the next phase. So saying that, if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
All right. Diane, is this you?
Yes, I had to have an argument with my mouse again. Of course, you guys have seen this before. We did approve a PUD for this property back in January of this year. They are following all of the PUD guidelines for this property. And in fact, they are doing 332 homes instead of 333. So they were kind and left us an extra. There are 18 non-buildable lots with 13 common property lots, 3 park lots, a lift station, and a detention pond lot. And of course, this is located on the south side of Kimmel Road. They're just south of Southwind Subdivision Phase 1. And as part of their development, they will be extending Womack Road onto the south there to be an additional access to their development. And along with that, they are doing half street improvements to Kimmel Road. So overall, they will be dedicating 49 feet of right-of-way from the section line, because there was kind of a discrepancy between the section line and the road center line. So they're dedicating a little bit more than what would normally be, because it will be a 32-foot wide road along with sidewalk and green space. And I can say that I did fail to put their landscape plan in the actual presentation tonight. So if Nicole and I can figure out how to share my screen, I can share it. I had that brilliant realization while we were discussing all of it at City Hall, because I was freaked out about drainage and the road improvements. So please apologize. But I will see if I can get that up there for you guys to look at. I did, in your package, there is a list of all the PUD requirements. Like I said, they have met all of them with this development plan. And now staff did agree, we'll have to go back and amend the PUD, that we weren't going to ask the Ross to go ahead and build the entire 5-foot 10-foot trail there on the south side of Kimmel Road to do just a 5-foot sidewalk. But there is additional right-of-way there for the city to come in and complete that 10-foot trail. So as you can see here, the Kimmel Road will be widened to the 32-foot lanes, 32-foot road, back of curb. And then there will be a 3-lane intersection at Womack and Kimmel intersection, and that would be 38 feet back of curb. They will be doing, the curb and gutter, the 5-foot, still calling it a concrete trail, but like I said, we will be going back as a city eventually to make that the 10-foot trail. And it will be, the sidewalk will be 17 feet from the back of curb. So there'll be plenty of green space there for additional space in which to put in that extra trail. Right now it will be the sidewalk. Then 2 feet of green space on the south side between like the fencing and the trail. And then also, can you go back to that slide before this one, Nicole? Sorry. And the street lights, and they're also putting street trees all along Kimmel Road also. Womack Road, they will be extending it. It's going to be 32 feet of pavement. There will also be the turn lane there at Kimmel, and it's going to be a 4-way stop too at Kimmel and Womack Road also. They will be doing a 5-foot sidewalk with 8 feet of green space and also street lights and street trees on the development side of this project. And there is also shown on here a close-up of the project there, showing Kimmel Road and Womack Road details there. They are providing, now you go to the next screen, Nicole. They are providing the 28% of green space that is required, and this particular map shows in the red everything that's going to be considered the green space. And the pond will be an actual stocked pond, so that will be, a pond all the time. And then there's walking trails within and green space around the perimeter, and also trees along all of the outside of the subdivision. They're on the perimeter to help with buffering between this development and neighboring properties. So my apologies that I didn't include the landscaping plan. There have been, let's see, there is fire access from Chance Street there on Kimmel Road, and also Vermont and Park Place on the west side of there for Womack Road. They are connecting to utilities they are doing a lift station and connect to new manhole as part of a subdivision there on the north side of Kimmel. And the floodplain, this property isn't directly in a floodplain. Nicole, if you could, there you go. But they do have that access easement. It's the little jut out there on the east side of the property that is in the floodplain. But again, that's going to be the pond. There's going to be no structures or anything like that there. It's going to be underwater. The only thing would be a trail. And let's see. I said they do have all the common space. There are some wetlands that are currently on there that they will have to have someone look at to see if that's going to affect anything. Again, the big pond is still located in the same location. And the drainage report, I'll let John speak to that, but I will tell you guys they are going to put in, my mouse and I are having a disagreement. They will be including, they will be adding a total of, they're doing 60 trees all along the walkways and paths, and then 178 saucer magnolias on all of the lots for the properties, 90 American hornbeam trees, and these are going to also be, I believe a lot of these are trees that are going to be on the exterior of the property for the shading, and some eastern red cedars in a little park area. There's going to be 52 of those, 439 Boxwoods. I mean, they're gonna wear out a landscaping company here when they get going on this one. So they are providing, you know, way more additional landscaping than is typically required with anything, and also the required public area also. Now, there were just a few comments that are still outstanding. We just received a resubmittal from them on the 12th. So I did note that the drainage report has not been approved, but I'll let John answer that because I didn't have an answer from him as of the last comments that he's left. And as you can see, the only thing they had on the drainage was with inlet 7. So I'll let John Wary discuss that one. But as far as outstanding items, there's not really a lot. They have, I know we have tortured them and, you know, held them up to the standards that I know you guys are expecting from this project. So they've done a good job. They really have. And you can ask questions away. And John, yeah, please fill us in for the drainage report.
John, are you there to cover anything on the drainage?
Yes, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah, they've done a pretty good job, a very good job actually, on their drainage analysis and their design. We've worked with them pretty closely for the last couple of weeks to try to work through some different issues. But the only outstanding comment I have is they had one issue, one area error on one drainage area that they missed in their design. But other than that, everything appears to be in order and meets the intent of the manual.
All right. Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Any questions, comments, or concerns from any of the commissioners?
You know, it sounds like they've been working hard with staff, and we definitely appreciate that. This has been an oddball one, but I'm happy to see that it looks like it's going to be moving along smoothly.
And just
Diane
a
or
note,
Nicole, are you guys trying to share something with us?
yeah, she is getting to the landscape plan.
Was that a sigh? A sigh of relief?
This is Jeff Bates. I'd like to add that we don't have any variances or waivers, which is pretty unusual for this big a project.
Thanks, Jeff. Any other?
I'm trying to
comments?
unmute myself. There we go. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah. You may have pushed it one too many times because I went back to mute.
Technical difficulties. I think we're overloading our server.
I'm here. I'm here. Sorry, guys. Technology sometimes, and I don't always get along. All right. Let me zoom in on this a little bit, and you guys can look at their landscaping. Oh, well, no, it doesn't like me. But you can't, they have, like I said, they have done a lot of additional landscaping, even though my screen is being stupid.
Yeah, I don't think we had any questions. It seemed as though there was a lot of trees, which is good. They weren't asking for less than what they need. So I don't know that we need to see the details.
Okay, good.
Joey might want to see one up front or something. I don't know, but I think that we're good.
I'm sorry, y'all.
All right. Any other questions or concerns from any of the commissioners? It does look like as part of our approval here, just as a reminder that our approval is needed for the adjacent street improvement agreement, preliminary plat and plans. And then again, if the approval be granted, it'd be contingent on any remaining staff comments as applicable. So if there are no additional comments, concerns, or questions, that I will entertain a motion for the Featherston Village preliminary plat. Again, it's the micro homes at Kimmel and Womack.
This is Craig. I recommend approval for the adjacent street improvement agreement, preliminary plat plans, and any staff requests that should be granted contingent on comments for the Featherston Village subdivision 19-06.
This is Tiffany. I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second, but before we proceed, it appears as though we have a public comment, which is one of our options. So Nicole, can you allow the public comment?
Alyssa Sims is unmuted.
Alyssa, if you're there,
Hi,
would you
yes.
please,
Can you hear me?
would you please let us know your address, and then feel free to comment or question.
Yes. Hi, my address is 234 East Millsap Road in Fayetteville. I have two questions. One is sort of multi-part. One question, I saw there are several streetlights on the plan, which is great, but I'm wondering if those streetlights are going to be full cutoff so that the light will not go into neighboring properties.
Yes, they will.
Okay. And then my next question is regarding the drainage, and this is sort of multi-part. I know that the drainage, the detention pond is going to be, I guess, a retention pond. It's going to hold water. And I was looking at the drainage report. It looks like there's about a capacity of about 4.5 feet or so until it's about at capacity. It appears to be a large pond. So I just was wondering if someone could kind of speak to, you know, how much that pond will allow to hold. Like, for example, this spring we've had a significant amount of rain. So in a spring like this, is 4.5 feet sufficient to hold that amount of water? And then the kind of second part of that is when the pond is at capacity, where does that water then run off?
Jeff, do you want to take a stab at that first, or we can go to John Wary?
Either way, it's designed for the 100-year storm event, plus an extra foot of freeboard. So actually more than that. So if it ever overflows, it's going to be a terrible day for everybody.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So what happens when it is at capacity? Was the plan, is there like a spillway that runs it off to the east?
Yes, it goes straight to the east down the existing drainage channel that's there, where all the water's going right now.
Right, it looked like everything was flowing that way. And with the existing wetlands that are on the property, I know that the slide said that you are engaging, you know, some additional engineers on that, but is there a plan as to how you're going to divert that water to this detention pond?
We have a storm sewer network in place on the streets to pick up all that runoff to take it to the pond. Does that make sense?
Yes, and there's still no curbs on gutters though on these streets. So you have something else in place that makes it divert to the pond?
We have changed our mind and we now have curb and gutter.
Okay, okay. All right, that is all that I have. Thank you very much. And I was at the Planning Commission meeting in January, and I just want to say I appreciate the time and effort you guys have put into this. And I reviewed the PUD agreement and saw, you know, significant changes to that. And I think it's been really well done. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to the public comments and really address those concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if there's no more public comments, we do have a motion in a second. And with that, is there anyone that's opposed? All right. Jeff, we appreciate it. I think Jeff was the other one that was on. Thank you guys for all the hard work, and thank you staff as well for putting this together. So next on the agenda this evening is subdivision 20-02 Orchard Park Phase 4 final plat. This is at Walters Road and Highway 72. As a reminder, it's R2. 26 single-family lots on 6.87 acres. And is the applicant here to give us an overview?
I did notice that Dan was here earlier.
I'm
Dan
here.
is still out there. Okay, perfect.
The overview is that this is a continuation of Orchard Park, 26 lots. As you'll hear from your staff, it was approved back on May 4th. The only thing I know of that's outstanding at all is they wanted just a bit more on our performance bond by $2,500, which they said it would be acceptable to have that done by the time it gets to City Council. Otherwise, final plat drawings and all of the things that are necessary for this plat to be approved or recommended approval are in place.
Thanks, Dan. Diane, is this you as well?
Yes, I think I have my technical difficulties under control now. Sorry about that before. This is the fourth phase of Orchard Park. It is a total of 26 lots in this particular phase. And like I said, it is zoned R2. And they did have a variance from back in the day for the 10-foot reduction in the lot widths. That is approved, and the reduction of the rear yard setbacks. That goes with every one of the phases of this particular development. All of their adjacent road improvements were completed with phase 3. So that is all completed. Warranty bond amounts have been submitted and approved by staff back on May 8th. So that's for your streets. The streets is a total of, I think there's a slide there. Go. No, I think it's on another slide, Nicole. I think I have them all listed on there somewhere. There we go. You see here that the streets is going to be $87,977.40 for the 2 years. Water and sewer, like I said, they are required just for the 50%. For 1 year, so that's going to be $72,480, and for the drainage for the 2 years, it's $115,783. Like I said, these have been approved by staff. Dan would just ask that you get the actual warranty bonds to us dated for the City Council meeting on June 9th. Have that all in place for us. There were the site inspection that we did, all the punch items were addressed. The city engineer did a follow-up, and there were a few items that Frank and the city engineer, John Weary, did have comments about, hence the addition to the performance bonds. There were some issues, and it's in your packet, with uneven grading, some protruding valve, meter cans, no vegetation, and a little bit of ponding there behind the curb. Now, of course, Schubert Mitchell, they're the developers and also the builders. So we are allowing them to do a performance bond for the completion of a sidewalk connection at Melrose and Ambrosia. There's 2 ADA ramps, and they need to connect up to each other. Hydro seed for the right-of-way with the topsoil, backfilling of curbs, and also the lowering of a manhole that seems to be too high currently. But again, they're going to come in and build these houses. Tell you what, they're building them quick. I mean, they got done with phase 3, it's full already. So we are asking for a cash performance bond of the $12,391.90 to cover those items. But again, we don't typically allow those type of things, but since they are the developer and the builder, they're coming and doing everything right afterwards. So if y'all have any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
I don't have a question yet. I do have a comment though. Dan, overall, I did try to drive through the subdivision the other day for what it's worth. And even though I do have a large truck, I was not able to navigate through one of the main streets due to all the construction. And so I actually had to stop, wait. So I don't know if, again, understand you guys are the developers and you're the builders, but if there would have been an emergency to get in there, it would have been nearly impossible. And they kind of looked at me like I was crazy. So for what it's worth, I just wanted to make that comment tonight. I did happen to drive out there and see that the other day on my round. So take that for what it, if you could just make sure the guys understand, it needs a little bit easier.
Yes, sir.
Any questions, comments, or concerns from any of the commissioners?
Yeah, maybe you should get a Prius, Jeff.
I'll try to get something smaller next time, Joey. Thanks.
Pay back for the landscape comment.
Maybe Joey's just entertaining that you think about that.
Absolutely. If there's no questions from any of the commissioners, then I would entertain a motion to approve the subdivision 2002 for Orchard Park Phase 4. This final plat. Again, it's on Walters Road and Highway 72. R2 26 single family lots, 6.87 acres.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to approve the final plat for Orchard Park Phase 4 with the outstanding bonds that we discussed today.
This is Tiffany. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any of the commissioners that are opposed? All right, thanks, Dan. All right, next on the agenda this evening is track split 20-08. This is Centerpoint West, 1389 West Centerton Boulevard. It's an easement correction plat to ratify the admin approval. Council approval was with ordinance 20-25 on 4/28/20.
All right, this one is mine. Okay, so this one is a corrective easement. This was for utilities easements that were originally dedicated with the record plat for the Centerpoint West project. And when these easements were recorded, there were encroachments as are demonstrated here. So the purpose of this corrective plat is to eliminate the encroachment. So this exhibit shows the exhibits as they are corrected. So the encroachment removed arrows, the exhibits were encroaching on those buildings, but when they are removed, they are no longer encroaching. So City Council approved the corrective easement on 4/28. So we need your approval for ratification. If you have any questions.
Any questions or comments from any of the commissioners? If not, then I would entertain a motion for track split 2008 Centerpoint West.
Nobody wants to do it. This is Joey. I'll make a motion to ratify our previous approval to include the revised easements as presented tonight.
Second. This is Tiffany.
We have a motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, thank you. All right, we're on to other business. Development 2002 West Ridge House and Playground. This is a request for administrative approval of plans with Planning Commission ratification.
I'll speak on this one. This is a very minor development that is on a lot, and typically, you know, like in the neighborhood park, usually they don't require anything except, you know, they usually they don't require anything except installing the playground equipment. But this one does have a restroom and it has a pool, and so it is open to the public, and so it has parking shown, and then it has the playground area. We are asking that since this is already a platted lot, it's not like a full development, that we could do administrative approval on this, and just have all of staff review. If you're not comfortable with that, then, you know, we'll bring it to you. Or if you want us to bring back what the final, you know, layout after our comments and everything will be, then we can do that also. But we just wondered what you wanted to do, since it is a minor development of an already platted lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in favor of, you know, allowing an admin approval. Do any of the commissioners have a concern with allowing the admin approval?
Not at all.
All right. Well, with that, then I would entertain a motion to allow for admin approval of development 2002. This is the West Ridge Pool House and Playground.
I'll make a motion to allow administrative approval for development 20-02.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, thanks, Lorraine. Lorraine, are you going to lead the discussion on further meetings? Or
Yes.
Mayor Bill,
Well,
or?
As far as for the month of June, it has been discussed that the meetings will still remain virtual for the month of June. So that kind of goes into the comprehensive plan and what we are looking at doing with that. I don't know if you want to go into that, but as
Well, let me, if I can, you know, real quick, Lorraine, you know, just address, you know, the fact that we're going to be virtual for, you know, June, and you know, I appreciate everyone. I know this is not easy. It's not easy for, I've got about 5 things trying to figure out who needs to talk, not talk, and some other things. So, you know, it's certainly a challenge for all of us, but, you know, I appreciate the staff, and, you know, I appreciate the, you know, each one of the commissioners as well, you know, being you know, responsive, and I know Devin's had some technical difficulties tonight, and we've tried to, you know, include him as well. So, you know, I just appreciate everybody. What I would say is that, you know, there's some hefty things coming up in June, a couple with some, you know, some public, there will be some public comments. So, you know, what I would do is encourage you, you know, as soon as possible to go out and review Dropbox, just to make sure that you know, review the comments, because we've already received some emails and some communication through, you know, through the staff. So, you know, just try to be prepared, and it'll help us. And again, I appreciate everybody in these times. So, yeah, with that, do you want to go through the comprehensive plan, Lorraine?
okay. We've talked with House of Levine, and we do have a revised draft, and we'll be going through it and trying to get the comments back to them by Thursday, if at all possible, so that we can have it back to us by June 1st and ready to put it out or on the public website. And we'll also email it and let you with the link and so forth, because it is a large plan. And on June 8th, we will be holding a virtual meeting with the steering committee from 12 to 2. House Levine will be addressing the steering committee. And then on June 9th, what our plan is with having a virtual meeting, we wanted to still have an open house for the community on this draft plan, but we may have to see where else we could host it. And this is something that we still need to talk with the mayor on and see if they want to go forward with this. This was presented to the council at the last meeting. There was concern expressed about the community not being able to meet, together in a setting. But the open house, typically it's just a walk in and out. House Levine would be available remotely to answer any questions. It would basically be, the board set up. I think most of you have probably been to a community open house, and then you can, make comments and we'll make notes of those. And then on June 9th at that evening, House Levine was planning on remoting in and giving a presentation to the city council. There was also expression that they would rather they'll be present. So this is just all with the thinking that it's virtual. So if that would be our first presentation to the public on like what we would call first draft. And then they would take those, they would also do a public hearing to the Planning Commission. And that would really be the first public hearing where House Levine presents it to the Planning Commission and people, could participate. And then we would go through whatever changes they got from that and then have a second public hearing. And they would be available remotely, but staff would do the final presentation to the Planning Commission. And then it would go to City Council and House Levine would be remotely. And of course, the ones for the City Council, that's all dependent upon what they wish. I would kind of like to know what your feeling would be about having House Levine present the plan to you remotely. Do you think that is a good idea? Do you feel we should wait? What's your opinion on that?
Gosh, we're so far down the road. My opinion would be that it'd be awesome, to have them do something remote, and I guess, maybe give them some feedback, and I'll be a part of this, the first, meeting here on the 8th. So, you certainly give them some feedback, but maybe just some high level overview, by chapter, I'll call it, or by section. I think would be, beneficial for, not only the commissioners to hear, but also, be available to, ask some questions. So, my opinion would be, it would be beneficial. I'd want to make sure we set some, I'll call them guidelines or barriers, if you will, just so we're not all over the place, and, kind of have a, an agenda with them to make sure that, it was, the right things were covered, and certainly entertain, any thoughts from any of the other commissioners as well.
Jeff, I'm with you, man. I think it's beneficial either way, but part of me thinks in person is awesome, but who knows where we're going to be at that time. And personally, I don't know that it's worth it to push the whole thing back if we can't get an in-person meeting.
Yeah, I think it's, just kind of become a new way of life, if you will. And I think, people have adapted to it, whether it's, at home, it's with just trying to talk to, friends and family, and, certainly, through work. So I think it's just become, kind of, I don't want to call it the new norm, but, at the end of the day, we're doing what we're doing. And so, they know it best. And, I think them giving us the, their abridged version, if you will, would be, beneficial for, we will review, the pages, but, to Lorraine's point, I mean, this thing is large. And so I think it would be good to have them, Lorraine.
Hey, Jeff, can I make one comment?
Yes, it's a little hard to hear you, but yes.
Yeah, I can speak up.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no, I think also they have travel restrictions at the current time also. We had to go in agreement with them, and I remember seeing an email back and forth that I was shared with that they have restrictions on their end also. So just keep that in mind.
I will say that Nicole and I have had several conference virtual meetings with them and going through things. And they do such a great job, explaining what they're representing. So, I mean, I hate to miss out on that. On the community open house, I'm hoping that, the mayor and us can brainstorm on that, on what we can do. I don't really expect a large crowd. We don't typically have a large crowd of just people walking in, looking at posters. Those things are also going to be available on the website, and it does seem like we have had a lot more participation with these virtual meetings than we have having people come on site. So
I agree with that.
I think one of the concerns that was brought up at the council meeting was that there were some people that wouldn't have access to virtual. And my response to that is, or was, that they still have options for emails, call-ins. They can reach out to the planning department ahead of time. I do like the fact that with virtual, we all have the same seat in the room. So you're not sitting way back in the corner of the room where you can't hear somebody. Everybody's got kind of an equal voice to raise their hand and be heard. And so I'm all in favor of moving forward on this too.
I can just add too, we can, like when we did these planning meetings and stuff, we were open the community room and limited to 10. I could still do that as a last resort for any public that wanted to come in, to attend the presentation to the council. The only problem we have is when we get all our department heads in there, and then also all the council, we're way over capacity for the current guidelines. I mean, that might change between now and then, and we'll certainly work with that. And I'm going to reach out to the Ravington and see if that's available for the 9th. After this meeting, I'll send them a quick email. Maybe we can move the community open house over there, at least, to where we have a bigger venue.
yeah, Nicole and I had discussed that, and that would lend itself to a nice layout where we could do the poster board, and of the various plans. So. Okay, so this looks like a pretty good plan going forward.
It does. Thank you. I know it's kind of updated a couple times, so thanks for keeping it moving forward.
Okay.
All right. Our next planning commission meeting is scheduled for June 2nd of 2020.
Hey, Jeff,
Anything else from staff?
Yeah, I got one thing.
Yes, sir.
Just real brief. I sent a email to 3 of you for your terms are coming up. I did hear back from Joey, but I did send a message to Ty and also Devin. If you can check your email and respond to me, I'd appreciate it. That's all I got.
Okay, I'm just going to add, there is one more page that still outlines the process of the comprehensive plan. It's very overwhelming, so we think this is great because we look at this and we're at step 6. It's the last step, so we're excited about that. It's been a long process.
All right. Well, thanks, Bill. Those guys will check their email and respond back. If there's nothing else, hope everybody has a good rest of the week and a good, I think it's a holiday weekend. It's kind of hard to believe, but again, I appreciate everybody tonight. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
A motion to adjourn. Jerry?
Yeah, I'll second.
All right, motion is second. Is anyone opposed to that? All right, thanks, everybody. Talk to you
Thanks,
later.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.